Many parts of Sodor's history are forgotten, some lost to time, others forgotten deliberately. However, one thing that people will always talk about, at least in terms of transportation on the island of Sodor, is its interesting engines and its forgotten railways. High in the valleys of Sodor, where a series of miniature engines would often run with ballast and sightseers, there lays a forgotten line, one that many know as the Mid-Sodor. Now, every railway has its secrets, but it's very hard to know the secrets of a railway that, in and of itself, is secret. And there was an engine that knew about them all. Duke, or the Duke. Duke was built with his brother in 1880. His name was Bertram. They saw themselves as the kings of the Mid-Sodor Railway, or at least that's what Duke saw them as. For years, Duke and Bertram would run the line together, making a good reputation with local clients and passengers that would visit the line, whether they be local or tourists visiting Sodor's mountain range. One early morning in June of 1910, the manager arrived at the shed to talk to the two engines. "It is an important day for us. We finally have an engine to tackle the goods." "Oh, splendid, sir," said Bertram. Duke grinned too. Finally, he thought, a new engine could do all the goods work, while him and Bertram go swooning with the passengers. "Yes, he shall be arriving later today. I trust you two will show him how we do things, and give him a warm welcome." "Of course, sir," said Bertram. Yes, sir," said Duke. The manager tipped his hat and walked away. "Isn't this great, brother? A new engine to help share the workload." Well, share is a bit of a generous term, Bertram," said Duke. Bertram looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Well, you've seen all the posters around here." He gestured to one over in the station. Mid-Sodor Railway. On the side of the big logo that took up most of the poster's space was two little cartoon drawings of Duke and Bertram, one on each end. "Surely we should keep our reputation up with the passengers. With this new engine we'll have more time to do so." Bertram looked almost disappointed in Duke. Quite frankly, he was. "You would hardly just abandon all goods work. I mean, this new engine will even out things a bit, but it's still only one engine. This is our railway and we divide the work equally." I guess," said Duke. Bertram had a feeling that Duke wasn't really listening to him, but it was time to get going, and before anyone could say anything else, he puffed away. Later that day, Bertram arrived in the yards. He saw a little engine being loaded down onto the rails. The engine was an 040, painted in a nice green. In fancy cursive writing, Mid-Sodor was on the side of his bunker. He looked a little nervous, but couldn't help but smile when he saw Bertram looking at him. "Hello there! You must be the new engine, am I correct?" Yeah, that's me." "It's a pleasure to meet you. I am the old warrior, but my friends call me Bertram." "Why do they call you Bertram?" "Well, it started when I was—" "Sorry to interrupt, Bertram." The two looked over and saw a workman standing next to Bertram. When are you heading back up the line?" "Oh, I'm due to leave in 15 minutes. Why do you ask?" "We need someone to carry this engine to the sheds. His fire isn't lighting the best, and we're thinking maybe getting him pulled or pushed along the way might help." The engine looked sheepishly away, almost embarrassed by this statement. "I'm really sorry. I've never really done anything outside of my workshop before." "That's quite all right. I was a shy steamer when I was first built too." "Oh, I'm sorry. I do believe I don't know your name." I don't think I have a name." "You don't think you have a name?" "No. Well, I don't know. I was told I was going to be given one, but so far everyone's just been calling me Number 3. "I see. Well, Number 3, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'll just go and get turned around, and then we can head back up. I'll show you the line. That'll be great, thank you. Soon enough, Bertram had been turned around. He backed onto his coaches, making sure to put number 3 in front of him. With 2 blasts of his whistle, Bertram puffed away, with number 3 in front. They passed through Marfway, Arsdale Green, and Arsdale. They continued on up into the high mountains. By now, number 3's fire was burning brightly, and the crew inside his cab were impressed. This is what me and my brother like to call the mountain road. Oh, you have a brother? I do indeed. We've both ran the line together for a good few years now. Now, don't tell him I said this, but he can be a bit conceited at times. But he's a good sort, really, I know from working with him. Number 3 didn't say anything. They continued on up the line for a bit. Soon they approached a long tunnel. Number 3 couldn't see. Quite dark in here, isn't it? It tends to be at times. Usually I have my lamp on, but I wouldn't be able to see much of anything, really, with you in the way. I see. Soon they finally came out of the long dark tunnel. Number 3 was relieved. Until he looked down. Oh God! His brakes locked up. The train bumped and the coaches clattered into each other. Bertram was shocked. So too were the passengers, his crew, and number 3's crew. They quickly came to a stop. What was all that about? Is everything all right? Number 3 had his eyes shut tight. Why is it so high up? Number 3's crew jumped down to inspect. It's like his brake blocks just seized up entirely. I have a hammer in the back, said Bertram's driver. Let me get it for you. As they began hammering gently away at number 3's brake blocks, Bertram stared. It was almost as if a memory was coming back to him. I understand it can be intimidating, to say the least. My brother was scared of it too when we first arrived. Weren't you? Said number 3, with his eyes still shut tight. I was, said Bertram, looking down at the ground. But I decided to take a risk and go anyway. The way I looked at it is if I fell off the mountain, I wouldn't be around to complain about it. But if I didn't, then it would prove to my brother that it was safe, and that would make things easier for him. And so I did. And I promise you, number 3, despite the intimidating height, me and Duke have crossed this section of line many a times with no issue. Number 3 slowly opened an eye. You promise? I promise. Suddenly there was a loud clang. Got it, said number 3's driver. His brake blocks have unseized. Bertram smiled. Now come on. I'll go slow just for you, I promise. Number 3, with this newfound confidence, rolled slowly forward. The rest of the train continued. Number 3 kept his eyes shut for several periods of the journey, but every once in a while, just a little bit, he would open his eyes and look down. Each time he did, the height didn't seem as scary. There was something strangely comforting about knowing that Bertram was there to catch him if, heaven forbid, he did fall. They soon arrived at the terminus. Duke was there. He looked confused and almost offended to see number 3 in front of the train. I say, what on earth are you doing there? Hi, said number 3 awkwardly. Don't just hi me. Bertram, what's he doing in the front of your train? Oh, I was just... I'm asking Bertram. I'll hear from you when I want to. Steady on, brother. This is number 3. He's the new engine. You could have at least said hello before having a go at him. I'm not having a go at him. If he's that new, then he shouldn't be leading a passenger train of all things. I'm sure you looked ridiculous heading up the line with him in front of you. Well, how is he supposed to learn the route if I'm lumbering ahead blocking the view, huh? Well, I suppose, Duke said, stuttering a little, but I still think it's a bit of a risky move. You should have at least run it by the manager. Well, Duke, the manager wanted us to meet the new engine and make him feel warm and welcome. And so far, I feel like I'm the only one doing that. Duke scoffed. Fine. My apologies, number 3. You don't have a name, do you? No, Mr. Duke, I don't. Yes, well, I expected that. Just then the guard's whistle blew, and it was time for Duke to leave. Well, I better be off. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'll see you later, Bertram. Duke puffed away quickly. Once he was out of eyesight, Bertram gave Duke a dirty look. What did he mean by expecting me not to have a name? Bertram rolled his eyes. He thinks that because you're a goods engine, you're a lower status compared to us. What's a status? Oh, how important you are, essentially. Oh. Oh, said number 3, growing very offended. I know, said Bertram quickly, and I don't think that, trust me. As I told you, Duke can be a bit conceited. I'll have a word with him later, if you would like. So, because I'm a goods engine, I don't deserve a name? Not at all. We'll find you a name eventually, and I'll make sure that Duke starts calling you it. But, sadly and typically, yes, it's usually only fancy passenger engines that get given names. What does he know? Old Dookie, he's being ridiculous. What? Questioned number 3. I've never heard that one before. Trucks have their insults, but my God. Don't ever let Duke hear you saying that. All right, said number 3. As the weeks went by, number 3 and Bertram became great friends. Number 3 tried his best with Duke, and Duke would make the effort to talk to him, but number 3 always got the sense that Duke didn't want to talk to him. I'm sorry, Bertram, but look, the passengers need an engine to relate to. An engine to relate to? Yes, exactly. Now you understand. No, that's not what How would our reputation look to the passengers if they saw us conversing with some dirty goods engine? Duke, he lives in the same shed as us. I know, isn't it weird? There is nothing weird about it. Bertram was disgusted. I know we've run this line, well, double-handedly, for a while now, but that doesn't decrease number 3's value. He is responsible, reliable, and really useful, and I've noticed things have become a lot easier around here ever since he's picked up the slack. The very least you could do is pretend to be grateful. Duke said no more, and crossly went to sleep. A few days later, number 3 was waiting at the mines. He was getting ready to leave with a train. He had grown very accustomed to handling the trucks. However, they still called him names. Shut up, he called, and bumped them hard. Oi, watch it, Smudgy! And they all started laughing. Smudgy? Number 3 questioned. Yeah, 'cause your paint's all dirty and smudged. Number 3 looked over and blushed. His paint, admittedly, wasn't in the finest condition, nothing compared to the bright green he was in when he first arrived. The fancy cursive writing that was once on his side was now covered in a fine grey dust, and if he was passing by you at speed, you would be forgiven for not even noticing it was there to begin with. I may be smudged, or whatever you call it, but at least I get my work done. Or at least I'm trying to with you horrible wagons. They all just laughed again. Suddenly there was a loud whistle. All the trucks stopped instantly. There, standing at the entrance of the mine, was Bertram. Is there a problem here? He said, staring at the trucks that were behind number 3. No trouble at all, Bertram. We were just, helping old Smudger here. There was a gasp, and the whole mine went quiet. The workmen had stopped to see what was going on, or to see what would happen to the trucks, who had been calling number 3 names. They knew Bertram liked number 3. What would he do to them? They hadn't misbehaved around him for years. Number 3, would you mind moving to the other line, please? Sure. Number 3 moved to the other line next to the trucks that were once behind him. Bertram rolled slowly up to the front of the train. He glared at the truck in front. Did you come up with that name for number 3 by chance? Well, maybe, stammered the truck in front. But, and do you think you could ever see yourself calling, I don't know, me, something like that? No, Bertram, never. I would never. Well, then don't do it to him, said Bertram, growing stern again. The other trucks froze. Number 3 was a little intimidated himself. He'd never seen Bertram this angry before. I'm sorry, Bertram. We all are, aren't we, lads?
Yeah, oh, yes, 100%.
Never again, no. Are you gonna kill him? Cried a worker. Everyone laughed, except for the trucks and Bertram, who only smirked slightly. That depends, said Bertram, trying to scare the trucks into thinking that he would actually end their lives. He turned his eyes to number 3. Do you like the name they gave you? Well, Number 3 was about to say no, but it was strange being called anything other than a number. He thought for what felt like a long time, and what felt like an eternity to the trucks. I guess I don't, said number 3. Smudger, was it? Yeah, said the trucks, who were more confused now than anything. Smudger, number 3 repeated to himself again. Smudger. I quite like that, actually, he said, with a rueful smile. Good, said Bertram. He then looked at the truck. I guess that means you live to see another day, Franklin. The collective sigh of relief that came from all the trucks in the mines, save for the older ones who were wise to Bertram's techniques by now, was so loud that it echoed all around the valley. Or at least that's what the workmen there would tell you. Bertram and Smudger stayed in the mines for the rest of the day, taking it in turns to take the trains down to the harbour. They had worked tirelessly to the end of the day. They were heading back to their sheds as the sun was setting, but Smudger still had something on his mind. Bertram, you weren't actually going to harm those trucks, were you? Oh, heavens no, said Bertram very plainly. But it worked, didn't it? My driver told me intimidation is a good way to get people to do what you want, only if you use it right, of course. Was that the right way to use it earlier? I hope so, said Bertram, chuckling a little. But hey, you got a name from it, and the trucks will leave you alone from now on, I suspect. You don't suppose you could use it on Duke, do you? Bertram began laughing again. He always had a very hearty laugh, and a very contagious one too, because before they knew it, Smudger and his crew, and Bertram's crew, were all laughing too. It had been an interesting few weeks for the little green engine, going to a new and the only railway he had ever worked on, overcoming his fear of heights, earning the respect of the trucks, and most importantly, making a new friend. And Smudger wouldn't have it any other way.